Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
much people talk about your dad, right?
Yeah.
What made your dad so special in this, that even all these years later, if I ask somebody, his name come up, him, Alan Jerkins, there's a
Sure,
few names,
sure.
but he's in there.
Yeah.
You
Like I
know?
said, he didn't care about anything else but the horses. Horses came first. When he woke up until he went to bed, it was the horse. So um, everything he could do, any amount of energy he could give, it was towards the horse and to help it out and make it better. And he had an innate way about him. I mean, it was just, I mean, his father was even a better horseman than he was,
Wow.
which is a pretty big statement. But he learned well and he put the effort in. He was the hardest working person I've ever been around. He put me to shame when I was 20 and he was 50. He could outwork me all day long.
Wow.
And he did everything himself. I mean, he trimmed the feet. He did the teeth. I mean, he did everything. So, I mean, he knew the horse from head to toe. And he had a way of getting people to work for him. That was big too. I mean, they'd work harder for him than they'd go across the shed road to another barn and they'd be like, Jack, how'd you get that person to work? They don't even work for me. And they'd come back to him, and he just had a way with people too. And it was just he was kind of a larger than life type persona. So when he said something, people jumped to it and they did it. And they saw that he did the work. It wasn't he was asking you to do something that he wouldn't do himself. He would go in there and muck stalls right next to you or rub legs or do whatever. So
Right, as a kid growing up, what was the shed row like back then?
it was perfect. I mean, it was done to perfection every day. And that's one of his big things is, I mean, you did the small things, the big things would come around,
Yeah.
I mean, I always said with him, it was hard working for him because if he wanted you to cut down a tree, I would go get a chainsaw. And he'd say, no, we need a file because it's more precise. It's that's the way you want to do it. You want to do it exactly the way we got to do it here. And that's the way he did stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't the easy way. It was the best way always. So.
Wow. And the biggest difference between racing today versus yesterday, what do you think that is?
I think today, in general, it's just more of a business. Whereas back then, the people really had an interest in the horse. They had an interest in the people on the backside. There's celebrations on the backside when you won. It didn't matter whose barn came. They were all together. It was one big family. Now there's so many factions that are, whether it be a racetrack fighting for horses, because they need more field size, whether it's barns competing for the horses to train. There's more competition now. And it's just like the NBA or the NFL. It's all about money now, and sometimes it's a good thing. I mean, if you're on the right side of it, and on the right side of the equation, and sometimes it's not as good thing if you're on the other side of the equation. So, back then, if you needed give a horse time at 2, you gave it time. You wouldn't bring it back till 3, and the people were fine with that. They were doing, whatever it took for the benefit of the horse. Now it's more, we got to get the horse to the races. We got to give it to the 2-year-old sales. We have to get it and it's kind of rush. So very different.
Like, who was a mentor for you besides your dad?
I didn't work for anybody else.
Nobody else.
I wish I had. I mean, I had opportunities, but he wouldn't have anything with it. I mean, he's like, you're staying here. So
Wow.
what are you going to learn from somebody else that you're going to learn from me?
Wow.
I was real close with Charlie Whittingham out in California, Willard Proctor, some of those guys out there, and I would have loved to go into. Charlie was an unbelievable horseman with some unbelievable horses. I mean, I still, I used to pick his brain all the time on the trainer stand. And I'll never forget the time I asked him who his favorite horse was, who the most impressive horse he ever saw was, the greatest horse he ever saw. And I thought he would say, one of his, from the past, the 70s, early 80s. And he said, when I was a kid, he said, I took the train down to Caliente. And he said, I was so young they wouldn't allow you on the front side during the races. So we'd work on the backside in the morning, and then we'd go shoot marbles on the top of the hill overlooking the track. Wow. And he said, still to this day, he said, I've never seen a horse like Phar Lap. Wow. Which when he pulled out that name, he said, I don't know if you know the story how the winner circle came about, but in the old days they used to put a chalk dust circle on the outside rail, and that's where the winner would come back in that circle when they unsaddled. And he said when they were so worried about Phar Lap getting hurt that when he went by the grandstand for the first time going 1 1/8 the chalk dust flew up. He was that far outside, and he didn't want to be around the other horses, and he still won by 1/8 of a mile. He said, Tom, I've never seen a horse that could do that.
Churchill Downs, right? Derby week. Explain what this is for you, just being here and just.
For me, it's more of an experience to share with clients, with friends, with people, just to show them what these horses can do. My stable doesn't have a tendency to have a bunch in Oaks and Derby Day, so we don't have a lot of entries. So I spend more time educating, entertaining friends and family and clients, and just to get people to understand how special this game is. Because in the media, a lot of times all you hear is the negative stories. You don't get to see how much these people back here care for these horses and how much time they put in. And it's So I like to show people what these horses and how well they're taken care of and how much they mean to us. And, you know, it's like family. Each one of those horses back there, they're like our children. So I try to educate and you know, illuminate as much as I can within this industry.